This full moon in Leo, February 12th, 2025, is asking us, what do we need to let go of in order to lighten our life, to lighten the load, to let more of our light shine? This full moon is full of light. And just like a spotlight can feel somewhat intense at first until we get used to it, I think that's a really good analogy to how this full moon might feel. So some of the very interesting connections that I'm going to be talking about is a conjunction between Mercury and the Sun that's in Aquarius. Of course, the full moon is always in opposition to the Sun. In this case, the full moon is in Leo, and then of course we have the Sun, like I just said, that's in Aquarius. We also have a square between the moon and Uranus at 23 degrees in Taurus, and that is a very interesting alignment, and I'm going to explain why here in a second. So let's first back up and let's talk about this Mercury conjunct the Sun in Aquarius. So the Sun rules Leo. The moon is in Leo. And the Sun is associated with our identity. It's associated with leadership, in part because in order to be a leader, one must express themselves. They have to express their persona in a particular way. You have to be seen if you want to lead. That's essentially that sums it up. So the Leo is in opposition to the Sun. The Sun is what rules Leo. And then we have Mercury that is conjunct, that's right on top of the Sun in Aquarius. So Mercury is at 26 degrees, the Sun is at 24 degrees. There's only 2 degrees difference between these two, so that's almost a perfect conjunction. Mercury is associated with the god Mercury, also Hermes, and Mercury has a very interesting ability, this god had a very interesting ability to be able to maneuver through all the different realms of existence. He could go into the underworld, the middle world of man, as well as the upper world of gods. So he was a messenger. It's one of the reasons why he's associated with intellect and messages. And then we have the square between Moon and Uranus rules Aquarius, which is the sign that the Sun and Mercury is currently in. And Uranus is associated with miraculous and often sudden changes and shifts, perspectives, aha moments. And sometimes these aha moments can feel rather chaotic at first. So Uranus is a change agent, and the moon represents our private parts of ourselves, our emotions, our subconscious, the parts of ourselves that perhaps don't get seen as much, but definitely our emotions and our subconscious is usually what influences more of our behavior than we're even aware of. Hence why it's subconscious. But so we have the moon that's in Leo, and so we have this reanalysis of how can I better align my persona, the Sun, with who I really feel that I am. How can I perhaps specifically make changes in my career, so how you work and what you do for a livelihood, as well as the family. So there's the two major parts of our lives that are going to be impacted the most with this full moon is our career and our family and close friendships. So and Mercury is about communication and about the intellect, and it's in Aquarius. So with Mercury communicating between our subconscious, and it's having a really direct communication with our subconscious since it's conjunct with the Sun and it's in opposition to the moon, and our moon represents the subconscious. So it's almost like it's picking up the phone and it's calling the underworld. And Leo happens to be in the underworld. Leo, it's more comfortable with the Sun than it is in the moon. So right now, our persona is like deeply entrenched in the underworld of the subconscious and our emotions. And it's sitting there and it's talking to Mercury and it's like, you know what, brother? I think that we need to make some changes. And Uranus is overhearing this, and Uranus is like, yeah, I've been saying this for a while. So these changes that are going to be, this is going to be like a tipping point for these changes. Most of the time, I think for most of us, these aren't going to be changes that are going to necessarily be a surprise. They're going to be things that we have probably been either contemplating or suspecting were coming for a while, but all of a sudden it's like the alarm has gone off and we're like, oh, now's the time. So the timing may feel rather intense. The timing may even feel somewhat unexpected, but the change itself, I think for most of us, isn't going to be something that's going to like completely surprise us. So for some of us, this might be a really good thing. This might be like the full moon that because full moons are usually also about completion. It's going to finally complete a cycle. Most of us, I think it's going to be completing a very heavy cycle where finally something is coming to the end, either a job change, whether or not that's expected and something that you initiated or not, or it could be a move that you were waiting to make. Perhaps it could be a change in your living situation, a change in friendships or how you communicate. And I think also some of us, if you've been contemplating making a change in building a business, starting a project, or changing your communication or the way that you work, this is the time to do that. This is the time to make changes that will at least set the seeds for more work-life balance in the future. Because that's what I see also as a really big kind of byproduct of a lot of these changes, is that usually alignment with your authentic self and your persona, the parts of ourselves that we allow to be expressed in the public, usually some aspect of authenticity, it reserves time for more work-life balance. So usually if a person is in like workaholic mode, that usually is an indication that there is an imbalance with our authenticity, because we are human beings. It's not our authentic nature to always be at the nose of the grindstone. Sometimes we might need to do that for a short period of time. Maybe something is really an emergency, something needs to get done. But if that starts to be kind of our MO and that's what we're doing, that's just how we work, then that is one example of something that might need to change. So whatever shifts that you're deciding to make, most likely they are going to be shifts and changes that are going to eventually be something that is really going to be a blessing. I think that also because the moon is in Leo, and Leo is about letting our light shine, that there will, for a lot of us, be this contemplation of letting our creative pursuits, our ideas, our thoughts, what parts of those have been percolating in the background that we haven't allowed to shine. We haven't really expressed them into the world. And now this full moon is saying, the time is now. If there's something that you've been wanting to say, if there's a message that you have, if there is an artwork or a book that is in your heart that needs to be expressed, there's this saying that's from the famous philosopher Rumi, that what you want wants you. So these kind of desires aren't just shallow, transient happiness. They are callings of your soul of what is going to give you joy. And there might be things that might be standing in the way of being able to express those creative pursuits or those messages that are just yearning to be expressed. And some of those obstacles might be relationships that aren't supportive or no longer in alignment to who you are now. Or they might be a job situation or schedule that doesn't really allow any time or space for you to be able to create, because perhaps all of your time and all of your energy is is just invested in making ends meet. That's totally a possibility. Or you have a job that is so demanding that it doesn't leave anything left for you or your loved ones. So these are big shifts and examples of big shifts and big changes. Obviously, there's a lot of different scenarios on how this could play out. But rest assured, if you're being called to make a big change in either your work, your living situation, how you work, or you have the inspiration that to start something that you have been thinking about for a long time, this is the tipping point. This is the time to start making those changes now. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the tarot, because I'm associating this full moon very much with the Judgment card. The Judgment card is a card where it's the Archangel Gabriel, and he is blowing his horn, and there's all these people coming out of graves, and they're hearing the call. And so this is very much about hearing the call of your inner voice, hearing the call of your higher divine self. It's the part of you that is your witness consciousness, the part of you that is witnessing your entire life, that already has all of the answers. That is who we're hearing this call from. And so there may be some dramatic changes that a lot of us are going to be asked to make. And for some of us, those dramatic changes may be more internal. It might be more about how we align our internal world to match our external world. Not that we are creating mental gymnastics or trying to, force ourselves in such a way, but more of like a reflection of your lived experience. How is it that you are integrating that? So that is another way that this might play out for some folks, especially since we have Mars that is in retrograde in Cancer, and Mars is going to be in retrograde in Cancer until February 23rd. And it's trining Saturn right now. And so we still have this energy that's in the background of prioritizing our self-care, prioritizing putting our ducks in a row, reorganizing. Saturn is very concerned about structure, and Mars is more about our action and our vitality. So when it's retrograde, we're feeling a little bit more reclusive. We're feeling like we need to nurture, reprieve, and repair. And so with this full moon being kind of an explosive, just like when you turn on a spotlight, right? And it first comes out, it's almost like an explosion of light. This is very much how this full moon might feel. And because we're already in kind of this incubation period with Mars and retrograde, it might just be like, oh, really? Like you want me to self-express and to, put myself out there now? Like I'm taking a bubble bath, and Mars is going to only be in retrograde for another couple weeks. So this would be the time to take those first incremental steps to make those dramatic changes. Unless, of course, your particular situation comes in like a wrecking ball and you have to, make those changes right here, right now, which I don't think that's going to be the case for most people. I think most people are going to just feel like now's the time. And so let's see what the tarot has to say. Big changes, big things coming, and I'm excited because anytime that we have a calling to up-level the integration of our authentic self as an expression of how we live our life, there usually is a short period of time where that feels pretty chaotic because we are, everything is shifting and changing. But in the long run, it creates a lot less anxiety. In the long run, we're a lot stressed out and we're better off for it. So this is really a blessing, even if it feels really intense. All right, so as I always say with these readings, even if it's like a few days past the full moon, it's okay. there's probably something in the message, at least for in the tarot, that probably will still pertain. So set the intention that whatever part of this reading is really meant for you is going to really stand out for you. All right, how best can we leverage this full moon in Leo on February 12th, 2025? All right, so this is giving us kind of a sneak peek as to what the journey to that authenticity may feel like. So the Six of Swords, when it's in its reversal, this is a card that talks about temporary challenges that end up leading to something better in the future. You can see that on one side of the card, the water is very choppy, and on the other side of the card, the horizons are much more clear and the water is much more smooth. So for a while, where we've been is we've been feeling kind of stuck. Things have been feeling kind of heavy. And it's one of those things where it's like, we've been wondering whether or not we should just give it one more try. The Eight of Cups reversed is an indication of giving it just one more try. Take a new look at whatever challenges are specific in your life that are represented by the Six of Swords, that are feeling stuck, that are feeling heavy, that it feels like, you know, no matter what door you try to open, it's always locked. And so you're trying to open the windows. You know, like if you've been feeling kind of cornered in life, then it's time to just give it one more try. Take another look at those challenges. Take another look, because perhaps it was the right solution, but the wrong time. Or perhaps whatever solution is the proper solution for your circumstances is something that just needs another revision. And this Uranus and all this Aquarius energy that we have with the sun, this is supercharging the ability to be able to come up with innovative ideas, out of the box thinking. And with Mercury in the mix of everything, this is a really good energy to be able to, essentially cast a wide net. Ask people for help, do research, see who might be out there that might be able to have some resources, perspective, or ideas that might be helpful. Because the thing that we are wanting to do is we're wanting to isolate. The Hermit card, when it's in its reversal, is he is in the proverbial cave. When it's right side up and he's in his light phase or light expression, then it's him gestating, meditating. It's being alone, but being alone with a purpose. But when it's upside down, it's like it's time for the gestation period. The gestation period is coming to an end. And for some of us, like meditating, being alone, and reading our books, hanging out with your cat, for some of us, that's very enticing. For other folks, that feels very lonely. But for a lot of folks, especially, people who are very spiritually inclined, that doesn't feel lonely. It feels relaxing. It feels integrative. But eventually we do need to come out of our cave and shine our light, because that's what the Hermit does. You can see in his hand, he has this lantern and it's holding a Merkaba, a six-sided star. And that represents your auric field. You have energy that is coming from the solar plexus up, and then you have the energy that's coming from the Vishuddha, the throat chakra, and is coming down. And they're rotating in opposite directions. And the meeting part is in the heart. Your heart is the magnetic powerhouse of your entire energetic field. And so he goes into his cave, and through his meditative practices, through his introspection and journaling and experimenting and researching, he's not only gathering information, but he's also supercharging his own battery so that when he comes out of his cave, he's more vital, and he is not just more knowledgeable and more wise, but he also has the energetic resources to be able to shine the light and guide the way for others. So he can feel, my shawl dropped a card. So it can feel rather enticing to stay in that cave for a variety of different reasons, but the cards are saying it's time. It's time to come out, because the Tower card is associated in this case with all of that Uranus energy that I was talking about. And when it is in its reversal, there is a reluctance to allow something to crumble. And the next card that comes up with it, this is the Strength card, and this is associated with the sign of Leo. And the Strength card is telling us that what is going to get us through this kind of inertia of resisting what needs to let go so that we can come out of our cave and move on is coming from the divine highest self, which is represented by the Lady in White. She has our primal nature, our fears, our instincts, our coping mechanisms. She has it domesticated. And so that is what we are being asked to do. Take the higher perspective. If fear was not part of the equation, what kind of decision would you make? That really is the bottom line. If it wasn't for fear and all of the what ifs going on in the mind, because that's the primal self talking, what decision would you make? And when we come from that place, it's saying that this is a card that's coming up. Five of Pentacles is a card that is more positive when it's in its reversal, because this is talking about a financial reprieve. So when we come, there may, for example, be some scenarios where we might be asked to take a risk. Perhaps this is leaving a job that's not really fulfilling, but it's comfortable, for example. Or it might be making some other changes that perhaps has a level of uncertainty, but the reward is potentially there financially. And this is saying that if we come from that place, stepping out of fear and coming from that place of our higher divine witness consciousness, that there is a potential for financial reprieve. Some of us may have come through a time where financially we've gone through a tough time, and potentially better times lie ahead if we don't let fear drag us down. And we also are going to be having a new perspective on how to reclaim a work-life balance. So the Ten of Cups, when it's in its reversal, is about the opposite of that. So the Strength card comes in, and she's giving us a new perspective on how do I create balance, how do I create more joy, and aha moments on creating a financial reprieve or a more work-life balance in the way of, perhaps we're getting paid better for the amount of hours that we're putting in, which always helps with the work-life balance, right? So good things lie ahead as long as we step out of fear. The changes that are coming our way, they're meant to change. Let go of the resistance. With the tarot card, with the Tower, there are different perspectives on what's happening for this individual. And usually in a lot of other decks, it's two individuals. And some people see a man who's falling, or two people who are falling, and some people see two people who have learned to fly. So it's really about perspective. The uncertainty is usually a byproduct of freedom. You have a lot of freedom, which then feels like chaos. If you have a lot of structure, it ends up feeling like a cage. So most of us like to be in that happy middle, but in that happy middle is not where we grow. That middle ground is where we can pause, integrate, and to become more copacetic and build a foundation for the next phase of evolution, for the next phase of change. And so just embrace the change, because chances are, my friends, that if we keep resisting, things are going to change with or without us, and it'll either take us, kicking and screaming, or we can get ahead of it, leverage it, and find ourselves better off in 3 to 6 months than we were today. So I'm personally really excited to see what happens from this full moon. Let me know how this resonates for you in the comments below. And as always, it would be very helpful if you found this entertaining or informative at all to hit that like, subscribe, thumbs up button. Those things, it only takes you a microsecond, and it makes all the world of difference for me and to help other people be able to find these videos as well. All right, y'all, take care, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. We're going to take a look at the new moon.